Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Discovering Doctor Who. I am going to be watching Closing Time and then recording this immediately after, so yeah, this should be kind of interesting. Going to try and throw things up a little bit, and it could be a disaster or it could be kind of fun. But either way, I will see you all after I watch this and after I finish my trail mix, and yes, that was candy corn. Don't judge me!
Goes the clock, and what now shall we see? Tick-tock, goes the clock, now thou shalt marry me.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode 68 of Discovering Doctor Who. Yes, as you show with that little intro, I literally watched the episode minutes before I started this recording, but I did write down some notes, so hopefully everything will go smoothly. And let's get right into it with the episode Closing Time, starting with my favorite parts of this episode. The first of which is Baby Alfie / Stormageddon. Now, I love kids, personally. It's like, I mean, some people really like kids, some don't care for them. I absolutely love kids. And little Alfie, throughout this episode, I really enjoyed him. Both, just the way they portrayed the character, basically. Obviously, all those coos and giggles weren't really his, or at least they weren't occurring at the time, but it felt real enough. And then the interactions of Craig and of Craig and the Doctor along with the baby, it was really cute, really sweet, and I really like that. And the whole concept of building up to the fact that it starts out with just Craig telling Sophie, it's like, he'll be able to cope, he'll be able to do it. To which I'm thinking the whole time, okay, has he just not been left alone for a long time? Which it should have clicked with me, but for just some reason it wasn't. It may have been that I was snacking at the time. But as soon as the baby appeared, I was like, oh, I get it. He isn't confident as a daddy. So yeah, well, I'm actually going to touch on that a little bit later as well, but I just really enjoyed, baby Alfie. Now, moving on, my second favorite part of this episode was the scene, or just the concept of the Doctor working at this toy store. Starting off, just it was so much fun. Like, you could tell, and this goes back to what I said in a previous episode, you can tell Matt Smith has so much fun when he's acting around kids, whether it's with the baby in this episode, or with the younger kids, several episodes back, or just the kids in the toy store. You can tell there's just this joy on his face that it just really comes out, again, when he's acting with kids. And then the whole aspect of, where he's working in that toy store, and everyone in the mall or the shopping center, wherever it is, basically everyone knows him. Even Craig, when he gets himself into a bit of trouble, by just the Doctor knowing him, the security guard and the girl that thought that Craig was harassing her, we're just like, oh, okay, well, you're friends with the Doctor, that's cool. So yeah, I just really like that aspect of it, and it really showed, I even back in the previous episode that Craig was in, the whole aspect of the Doctor not really being able to be comfortable with interacting with humans was definitely a bit overplayed, and the way he acted with people in this episode, definitely, either one, they're explaining it as he learned to adjust or he adapted, or the previous episode was just kind of crap. Or like the last episode was just kind of crap as far as, him not really knowing how to interact with people, which is basically what I'm going with. But moving on from there, my third favorite part of this episode was the fact that we get a glimpse of Amy and Rory. Well, the Doctor gets a glimpse of them. And I thought it was really interesting. All of a sudden, this little girl comes up and asks for Amy's autograph. I was, huh, did she, like, write a book since the Doctor left them? Or what's going on? And then it pans over to a picture of her. Apparently she has a perfume line, which is really cool. The tagline was, "For the girl who's tired of waiting." And that was, I just thought that was brilliant. I thought that was brilliant work with, well, not only what the Doctor says, like, you know, he's called her the girl who waited. And cats. But I just thought that was really cool and great to see them. So, you know, obviously I have a very strong feeling they're going to be coming back, most likely for the finale of the season, which is the next episode. But yeah, it was nice to see that little glimpse and just see the way the Doctor reacted, which, you know, you could tell he was so happy to see them. And even though it kind of showed on his face, but just the body language said, I want to go forward and give them a big hug, but I can't, because he's so afraid that his presence is going to ruin them. And yeah, that was just a wonderful scene there in that episode. But my fourth favorite part of this episode was essentially the Cybermat, or as I more affectionately like to call it, the Silver Rat. That was just, I liked it being referred to as the Silver Rat. And then actually getting to see the Cybermat for the first time, you know, it was kind of cute at first. Like, you know, it's just basically this little metal shell with a fat tail. And it was interesting to finally see, after people have mentioned it several times in the past on in the comments. And then we get the scene where it has those teeth. And that was just, admittedly, it's like it took me by surprise. It wasn't frightening per se, but, you know, if you see something that's just been a hunk of metal, then all of a sudden it's like right in front of you with its teeth right in your face, is like, you know, that would be legitimately freaky. Especially if it's trying to kill you. And while it's biting, electricity is shooting out. That was, which actually, that little, I mean, it was just a bunch of physical comedy.
Tick-tock goes the clock. We laughed at fate and mourned her.
But just the whole scene where, like, Craig and then the Doctor trying to hold it off, that was a pretty entertaining scene. I like that. But moving on, my fifth favorite part of this episode, I think it's the fifth. Yes, the fifth. And this is where the episode went from just really silly and funny to a true moment for me. And that was when Craig goes through the conversion. He's converted by the Cybermen. And at first I was thinking, holy crap, are they actually going to do it? It's like, you know, we've had characters, I mean, hell, the alternate universe, Rose's mom, which I forget her name, but, like, you know, she got turned into a Cyberman. So, you know, it wasn't beyond logic that Craig might get turned into one too, which would be a severely depressing turnout for this episode, but thankfully it didn't happen. But in the end, I feel like when they, you know, attempted the Cyberman conversion of Craig, and his baby's cries brought him out because of the emotions that it brought forth. I don't know. I mean, it was very symbolic in my opinion. That's like, you know, he came out of that converted. He converted into the dad he always wanted to be. Like, you know, he finally felt the power of his love for his child. It's like, no doubt that he loved the child already, but just like, you know, he was basically going to die, and it was through the love of his child, hearing his child's cries, that brought him back. And that was just a really cool moment. Now, whether or not the Cybermen's heads exploding afterward was a bit much, that's up for debate. I thought it was kind of cool at the time, but now that I've thought about it, that was kind of weird. I can't remember if that's actually happened in the previous episodes or not. I know when they felt emotion, they started freaking out, but I don't remember any of their heads exploding. Correct me on that if I'm wrong. But yeah, like I was saying, as far as just like a favorite part of this episode, his conversion was definitely one of them. And then finally, the final scenes of this episode, just like the final scene that you see of the Doctor It's like, you know, I mean, there's just so much sadness on his face. And as people have said in the comments, Matt Smith is so good at portraying age, I guess you would say it, age in youth. Because, I mean, he's very young. He's at that point in time, and possibly even still now, younger than me. But he's able to portray himself in a way that makes him seem far beyond his year. Like, you can see the 900, or maybe it's more now, like possibly 1,000 or 1,100 years old Time Lord, however old he may be. But he gets that across, and especially so in those last final scenes. And then when we see River, aka Melody, and the eye patch lady, whose name I can't remember, comes out, and then the woman starts reciting that nursery rhyme, and then the very last scene we see before the credits start is River inside the spacesuit, and that line being said from the nursery rhyme, "Till River kills the doctor." Just everything about that scene sent chills up my spine. It was just really, I really liked that. I did not expect that after the way the episode started and the way that most of the episode was. But that's all of my favorite aspects of this episode, and I listed quite a few, admittedly. Now on to my annoyances. First of which is, and this is well, basically, I hate awkward scenes. And it's not like, you know, awkward humor like in The Office. It's like, you know, that's just kind of like awkward. But awkward scenes where a character is just overacting and just like being deliberately awkward, and you can tell it, and just for some reason, and this is just me, but anytime that's in a show, it makes me feel incredibly cringy. Like, I can't watch what's going on. There have been times I'll be watching other TV shows, sometimes even movies. That's more rare, but often in TV shows where it's like, if something is like that is happening, I will actually change the channel, give it a few seconds, and then come back so that hopefully that scene is over. And of course I'm talking about the scene where Craig is in the ladies' wear area, or the lingerie area, and talking to that one woman, which, yeah, admittedly was pretty creepy. But yeah, just that whole scene was so cringy for me. I couldn't take it. Now, my second annoyance with this episode is that overall it's very silly. And not that there's technically anything wrong with that, but I mean, this episode, it definitely served a purpose, as especially the last scene showed, but overall it just kind of felt silly, which I did enjoy, but I don't know, it felt like one of those filler episodes that easily could have been left out. Whether or not I think it should have stayed in, I'll talk about in a few minutes, but it's definitely an episode that could have been left out, and the last scene possibly just a prequel for the upcoming episode, which already has a prequel, which I'm going to have to watch. But yeah, that would be my second noise. It's just overall, it's very silly and not really necessary as an episode. Again, just in my opinion. But now, before I get into my final thoughts, the song of the episode, and while listening, I did listen to the soundtrack real quick after watching the episode, and the music felt really appropriate. There was one tune in particular that I wasn't able to find in the soundtrack unless I just missed it. It was basically sort of like the Doctor's theme mixed with this very lullaby feeling, which, again, I couldn't find it, but that would be I guess I should call it, like one of the commenters said, the music of the episode, which makes more sense. But yeah, I really enjoyed that, but the music of the episode is My Time Is Running Out, and it's basically a little over 4 minutes long. Very nice It's just a very beautiful music to listen to. And I love how they have those little twinges of like a lullaby or child's playthings, like the music playing.
Tick-tock goes the clock, even for the doctor.
Really like that and like the way it was incorporated to all the music. But overall, for this episode, My Time Is Running Out is my favorite music, or favorite song. I don't know how to specify it yet. We'll just call it music from now on. Now, my quote of the episode is likely going to surprise a lot of you. And there were some very good quotable lines. Not a lot of them, but a few very good ones, especially from the Doctor. But my line of the episode is right at the end, and it's when Alfie says his first words. Doctor? I know you all are cringing, you're just like, what? Like I said, I love kids, and that moment right there, even though it wasn't actually the kids saying it, it put a big smile on my face, and I just really like that idea that, you know, they've gone through all this. It's like, you know, through baby speak, which the Doctor can speak with the baby. Like, you know, Alfie started actually referring to his dad as dad and not just not mom or not mum, but actually says Doctor. I just absolutely love that. So that's why that's my quote of the episode. If you have others, please do let me know, because like I said, there were several other very quotable lines, but for me, that's just the one that worked out. Now, as for my overall thoughts on this episode, and from the opinions I've seen, I did not expect to feel this way. I honestly liked it quite a bit. I have the... I really enjoy funny episodes. I love comedy. And maybe I was just in the mood for something really funny this episode. But it worked for me. Now, like I said, it was overall very silly and not an episode I would deem necessary. But in the end, I found it to be really funny. The physical comedy was funny. The back and forth between the Doctor and Craig, and the way the Doctor translated with Alfie, the baby. Just the way all that worked out, I really enjoyed it and thought it was overall well done. Is it an episode I would watch again? Maybe once. Like, it's not an episode, since I feel that it's overall unnecessary, I would probably watch it just to get a quick refresher of what goes on at the end of the episode. But as for the episode as a whole, probably not. It's like, you know, I might watch it in passing sometime if I decide to make my way back through Doctor Who, the new Who, at some point. But while on that level, it doesn't really have that much replay value for me. I enjoyed it while I was watching it, so, you know, take that for what it's worth. But yeah, it's not bad, it's not great, but it was funny and overall enjoyable. So yeah. Now, moving on from there, do I have a question for this episode? Yes, I do. I actually have two questions, and one that will lead us into the following episode. The first question is, will Craig and his family appear in the future? Is this basically like Craig and Sophie and Alfie's final appearance, or will they make another appearance within the next season, since season 7 is what Matt Smith has left? Well, after the next episode, obviously. So yeah, that's my first question. The second one is, what's going to happen now? Now, while I think I mentioned this in the previous episode as well, but when the season started and the Doctor got killed, it didn't really affect me that much. I didn't find it to be that impactful. I was just like, oh, okay, he died, so they're going to change that. But as that season has gone on, and especially as we're leading into it now, I am very intrigued as to what all is going to happen, how this is going to go down. Obviously, the Doctor lives. I mean, from the perspective I have, since we get a new Doctor a season from now. But at this point, I'm very intrigued to find out what happens. I really want to find out what happens in the wedding of River's song. And what is going to happen? Will the Doctor live? Will the silence prevail? That's a question I'm going to have to figure out in the next episode, everyone. And until then, Alonzi!
Tick-tock goes the clock, and he cradled and rocked her. Tick-tock goes the clock,
till River kills the Doctor.